In today's episode, we discuss a case of love and deception, but in more ways than just one. We're talking about the case of the sniper Marine, Thomas Montgomery, right now on Love and Murder. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Love and Murder, the weekly true crime podcast discussing relationships gone terribly wrong. I am your host, Kai, and this is going to be the last true crime episode of Season 2 and 2022. Season 3, a new and better Love and Murder, will premiere on January 8th. The one thing that I've learned in December of season 2 is that it's very hard to stay consistent at the end of the year with everything going on. So, this is why this is the last episode of season 2 in 2022, so that we can come back better and brighter on January 8th, 2023, with season 3. Now, for those of you who are new here, our show discusses true crime cases told in the form of a story with mystery and suspense. Be sure to subscribe to Love and Murder on whatever platform you're on, as well as give us a 5-star review right now so you don't forget. And starting in season 3, we have new and exciting things coming up for those of you who do leave us a review, and others as well. If you're new here, then obviously listen to the episode first and then please rate us. And also welcome and thank you for joining us. In today's episode, we're talking about the weirdest love triangle I've personally ever heard of. You want to totally listen all the way to the end of this case. But first, I want to remind you to head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/love and murder. Although we won't be having episodes of Love and Murder Free Show until season 3, we'll still have new bonus episodes coming out. Now's your chance to join, listen to the new bonus episodes, and catch up to all the past bonus episodes at www.patreon.com/love and murder. And now, on to the show. Now, this is going to come out kind of differently. Normally we tell our cases in a certain format. This format is going to be a little bit different. So, we're going to start off talking about Thomas Montgomery. Now, not much is known about his childhood other than he was born in 1960. And then in 1978, when he turned 18, he went into the military, the Marines to be exact. Our story actually picks up in 2006 in Clarence, New York. Thomas was married. He got married in 1989 to a woman named Cindy. And by this time, he was a retired Marine with, like I said, a wife, 2 daughters who loved him. And he was an upstanding citizen. He'd never broken the law, never did anything wrong. He was actually described as a good man who loved his family, a good neighbor. Right now, as we're telling the story, in 2006, he works at Dynabrade Power Tool Plant. He also worked on his daughter's swim team board. And, everybody describes him as just a great guy, amazing father, great husband, and everything like that. But in Thomas's opinion, his marriage was a loveless one by this time. It did start out great, but by this time it turned into kind of a loveless marriage. And to him, he and his wife didn't have sex and didn't have time for each other, which, in a marriage, you've been together for a while, people usually settle into a routine, especially when you have kids. You get busy with work, you get busy with kids, you get busy with school, you get busy with sports. And, by the time 3 years has passed by, 5 years, 10 years, you didn't even realize that you didn't even make time for each other and for your partner. Now, some people at that point in time, they get divorced, and other people, decide to go to marriage counseling, rekindle their relationship, and really work at their marriage. Either or. We'll talk about the option that Thomas Montgomery took. In May of 2005, Thomas decided to go into a teenage gaming chat room for the game Pogo. Now, that game sounds familiar to me. It sounds really, really familiar, like I should know what it is, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember what Pogo is. Did any of y'all play Pogo? Does anybody know what this is? Please let me know in the comments below because I cannot remember. And I know I could just look it up on Google, but I'm asking y'all. So he went into a teenage gaming chat room for Pogo, like I said, and in there his name was MarineSniper. So my first question is, why was he in this kind of a chat room? Like, before I even move on, why did he decide to go in a teenage chat room? Was it the teenage part or was it just the game part? Like, I'm just wondering. So, anyway, one day he got a message from someone with the handle of Tall Hot Blonde. And when the person introduced themselves, they were 18WF, 18 white female. And so when Thomas saw this, at first he was like, how will this look if I reply to an 18-year-old? So he was kind of apprehensive at first, like I shouldn't do this. This is kind of wrong. I don't think it's a good idea. But then he looked at her profile pic and, I guess based on what he saw and what she was saying, he decided, well, maybe it's not that inappropriate to answer. So maybe I'll just go ahead and answer. But instead of answering completely as himself, he pretended that he was 18 too. And, while they were chatting and everything, getting to quote, know each other, he told her that he was actually heading into the Marines, not that he'd been retired for some time, but he was heading into the Marines and he was going to be deployed to Iraq. Quote, I kept thinking, well, we're never going to meet. I'll just play the game with her. That was a quote from Thomas. So instead of this just being a one-off, they ended up continuously talking. And that talking turned to flirting. And during that, he found out that Tall Hot Blonde's name was actually Jessie. And again, in getting to know each other, she told him that, she played softball in high school and she was currently a senior, that she lived in West Virginia, and that she was a really athletic person. Then she decided that she was, going to show him her picture, as everyone who's in an online flirtation, getting to know each other kind of relationship does. So she showed him some pictures of her and he was intrigued and they kept talking. It didn't stop. They just kept talking and flirting. So they started out talking, getting to know each other. Like I said, that talking turned into flirting. That flirting evolved into an online romance. So they kept exchanging pictures because, now they're in a romantic relationship, with her thinking he's 18 and him continuing to play 18, even though he's married with 2 kids and he's far from 18. He's like 40 something at this time. I think at this time he's like 45, 46, something like that. So anyway, she would send him pictures of her on her softball team. She sent him pictures of graduation, her basketball team, school pictures. Then things escalated and she sent him provocative pictures of herself. So after some time, she wanted to know what he looked like, She would call him she actually called him Tommy. Now, some people say she called him that. Some people say that's how he introduced himself. So Tommy. So she called him Tommy. Either way it goes. So when she wanted pictures of himself, I guess, he started scrambling, trying to figure out what he's going to do. So what he ended up doing was he sent pictures of himself from when he was going into Marine boot camp, which was 30 years ago. And he told her that he was 6 feet tall, which he was, and that he had bright red hair, which he didn't. And he described himself as muscular with big shoulders and, just, I guess, describing himself from when he was younger, not today. Then the other thing he did was he lied about missions that he went on. So he said he went on like covert black op missions and that, he was a sniper and all of this stuff. But even though he was in the military, he never saw action. Like he never went anywhere. And yeah, he was a qualified sharpshooter, but he was never a sniper. So, the lies continued. Then they started sending gifts to each other, like actually mailing each other gifts and love letters and all of this stuff. Like, what are you doing, dude? I mean, online is one thing, which I don't condone because that's still cheating. But now you're having this stuff sent to your house. Are you crazy? So in some of the letters, it said stuff like, quote, "I love you always and forever, Tommy." That was from Jessie. And Thomas would write her, "I've never felt this way." So my question is, so with this case, there's a couple different ways it's told. So some people say it's love letters. Some people say it's texts and emails and stuff. So we're going to stick to the texts and emails because it's an online relationship. So I'm sticking more to texts and emails. After some time, Thomas kind of, started feeling guilty and he kind of wanted to end what it was an affair, but he just felt like he was addicted to it. And he did describe it as like, quote, a drug. So he couldn't find it in him to end the affair and he just kept on with it. Now, again, two ways that this was told. One way that the case came out was that his wife, Cindy, found a package that Jessie had sent to Thomas. Another way that I saw this case unfolded was that his daughter was on his computer and a text had popped up for him. And then she called her mom and her mom found everything. So either way, what happened was his wife, Cindy, found out she found something that Jessie had sent to Thomas. Now picture this. You have been with somebody for years. You share a life, you share a house, you share children, and one day you come home and either you find a text message, an IM, an email, or a package from somebody saying something crazy like, "I love you too, baby," or something like that. How do you think you're going to feel? What do you think you're going to do? Do you think you're just going to, I don't know, be like, "Well, let me go get dinner ready," Stuff like this happens all the time. Or do you think you're going to try and find out who this person is? I'm just wondering, which one do you think you would do? So Cindy, what she did was that she snooped around and actually ended up finding more stuff. She found a secret pile of photos. She found letters from West Virginia. And she found, dude, underwear. Now, I think the underwear part, I would have been angry already, but the underwear part would have that would have been the icing on the cake. I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, that would have been the cutoff point. That would have made me so angry, so livid. But anyways, that's what she found. Now, instead of confronting Thomas, Cindy got a picture of her and her family and sent Jessie a nice letter stating that, quote, "Let me introduce you to these people. The man in the center is Tom, my husband since 1989. He's 46 years old." And that's what she sent to Jessie. And I'm going to post a picture in our Patreon and you'll see he's trying to pass off as 18. He looks nothing like 18. So when Jessie saw this, she then texted Thomas and was like, "Yeah, dear John." Basically, for those of you who don't know, dear John means it's a breakup letter. So she broke up with him and she texted him, quote, "I hate you. You should be put in jail for this," end quote. So after this, Jessie wasn't sure if she actually believed this. So what she did was she reached out to one of Thomas's coworkers to see if what Cindy had said was true. And if that was actually Thomas in the picture, or is somebody punking her? Is Thomas trying to break up with her, but maybe he didn't have the balls to do it? Like, what is really going on? Now, my question is, how did she know who his coworker was? Did he introduce them or something? That's like, no, I don't think he wouldn't have introduced them, because then the coworker would have blown up his spot. So how would he have known? How would she have known who his coworker was? That is interesting. Now, we could speculate on this, because I could say, okay, she knew where he worked. She could have, or she could have looked up his name, found out where he worked, because all you needed was his name. She had his address. Yeah, she could have then looked up where he worked, found somebody in his job, and then messaged that person at his job. That's all speculation. The case didn't really say how she found out where he worked and how she found out this guy was his coworker. So we're just speculating here. Anyway, she reached out to one of his coworkers and asked him if this was actually true. Now, the coworker's name was Brian Barrett, and his screen name was Beefcake. So apparently he was also in the same gaming chat room. Either way, his online screen name was Beefcake. He himself was 22 years old. He was actually a college student, and he worked part-time where Thomas worked. So he was there part-time because he was still in school, but Thomas was there trying to feed a family. Everyone said that Brian was really good looking. You know, he was really outgoing. He was a really great guy. And no one had anything, bad to say about him. So when Jesse reached out to him to ask him, hey, look at this picture. Who's this? And he was like, oh, yeah, I know him. I work with him. That's Thomas Montgomery. So basically, he confirmed that, yeah, Tom. Oh, yeah, he's married. He has 2 kids, and, he's a great dad and he's a great husband. I haven't heard anything bad about him, blah, blah, blah. So then Jesse basically told him what happened. Well, yeah. Well, when I knew Tommy, he was 18. And not saying I knew him years ago. Yesterday, he was 18 to me, and he was going into the Marines, and he wasn't married, and he didn't have any kids, and now I'm hearing he does. So then Brian was like, oh man, that's rough. I can't believe Thomas did that to you, blah, blah, blah. He started consoling her, and somehow that consoling became them talking, became something more serious. Now, my question is, did she continue talking to Brian because he'd grown on her and they had a lot more in common? And she probably verified that, yeah, he was actually 22, which is closer to her age and not 46. Not that anything's wrong with that, but I'm just saying. And maybe, like I said, maybe they had some, a lot more in common. Or was it that was Thomas's coworker? She knew this would get back to him, and she was just trying to get back at him. Which one do you think it was? I don't have all the facts, so I can't figure out if she was trying to get back at him or she'd grown to like Brian. So let's find out. So her and Brian would talk, and they would talk online, and they would talk in public on the forums, and she would actually flirt with Brian in the public rooms where Thomas could see. So it sounds like she was doing this more to get back at Thomas. And Thomas, in turn, married 46-year-old father of 2 Thomas, would send Jesse messages threatening Brian. Quote, Brian will pay in blood. It's like, how are you jealous? Aren't you married? Okay. Shouldn't you be raising your children? Now, the messages he sent to Jesse didn't lessen or become less threatening. Instead, it became more threatening, and Thomas seemed like he was becoming quote, unhinged. That's literally the word that was used in the case. Unhinged. And one day, Jesse and Brian actually posted his picture online and told everyone, this is Thomas Montgomery. He's 46 years old, but he was pretending to be 18 and pretending to talk to me and blah, 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 and basically painted him out to be a pedophile. So, of course, Thomas got really, really angry. However, plot twist. Throughout all of this, Jesse was still talking to Thomas on the side. Can you believe that? Here's one of their chats. Quote, I ache to be with you, Tommy. Do you miss it, Tom? More than you'll ever know. My heart aches to hear you call me your Tommy. I wish I could be that 19-year-old Marine for you. I know, Tom. That went on for a little while, and then they ended up getting back together. Well, online back together. So to Thomas, that was like amazing. Like, she accepts him for being like in his 40s, 46, 47, and she's 18 and she must really love him. So he's thinking everything's good, and he's putting in his head that, you know, he's actually going to leave his wife for her. He actually wrote a note one day to himself that says, Thomas Montgomery is dead. My name is Tommy and I'm 18. Like, this is the kind of craziness that was going on in his head. Like, he like literally killed his current self and adopted the personality of this 18-year-old. And he would just continuously go to work, come home, talk to Jesse, and this was his life. And even, you know, his wife would tell him, come on, get off the computer, come talk to her, come spend time with the children, come have dinner. And he would just be like, you know, I'll get off when I'm done. I'm not done yet. I'll just get off when I'm done. So I don't know how she did it, but I'd have been like, okay. What also solidified that, you know, she accepted him was that they still were like sexting. They were still doing that. Quote, wish you were nude. What would you do? Stare. That all? No. You might get the magic. Make love to me, Tommy. Now I got quiet because that last line, make love to me, Tommy. What 18-year-old talks like that? Like, I know when I was 18, I never said those words. I don't know. Maybe some 18-year-olds do that. I don't know. To me, that's just, I don't know any 18-year-old who talks like that. I'm just saying. Maybe I'm paranoid. Okay, anyways. So everything was going great. They were getting back into the groove of their quote affair because that's what they were doing. And then out of the blue, Jesse was like, you know what? I can't do this. I'm going to break up with you again. I don't know what happened. Maybe the age thing bothered her. Maybe she had talked to Brian and Brian convinced her that he was the one for her. I don't know what happened, but out of the blue, she broke up with Thomas. So, of course, Thomas immediately thinks it's because of Brian. So he starts getting jealous all over again because she was still talking to Brian. And I don't know if it was public, but he immediately he didn't think anything else. He didn't think his age. He didn't think, you know, maybe they didn't have anything in common. He didn't think maybe you're married with 2 kids. He just thought Brian. He began getting really jealous and acting threatening and erratic and just acting all crazy online. So while he's doing that, Brian is just continuously, you know, continuing to live his life and everything. And he's telling Jesse, hey, you know, we've been talking for some time. I kind of want to come see you. And Jesse's continuously telling him, no, you know, don't come yet. You know, Thomas is acting crazy. I don't think that it's the right time. Let me, you know, completely end things with Thomas, blah, blah, blah. And there was this one time that he actually had to drive down to North Carolina. And by he, I mean Brian. And on his way back up, he was telling Jesse that, hey, that, quote, I'm going right past your house right now. I'd love to get together. But right before he got to like her exit, Jesse texted him not to come and, you know, come see her some other time, but just not right now. And so he didn't get off at the exit. Well, old Tommy there found out that this happened on September 15, 2006. Brian was getting ready to leave work for the day. And Thomas had actually gone down to the job to see him. Now, I wonder how many times they had crossed paths at the job, or how many times this scenario had happened where Thomas had gone to the job to be like, leave my girl Jessie alone. That's not your girl. I'm wondering how many times that had happened. But anyway, so Thomas went down to the job to see him right when Brian was leaving work. And instead of just being like, leave Jessie alone, she's mine, he took out a gun and shot him 3 times. Just shot him 3 times. So I guess that was his way of saying leave Jessie alone. What an ass. But Brian ended up dying on the scene after that. Of course, everyone there called 911. And when they responded to the murder, in speaking to everyone, they immediately found out about the love triangle. Thomas, who's married to Cindy with 2 kids, is actually online dating this 18-year-old named Jessie, who she broke up with him, but she's actually now talking to Brian, who's 22-year-old. Then Thomas came, got jealous, and murdered Brian. So they found all of this out really quickly. So when they searched for Thomas, they couldn't find him, but there was somebody else in this mix. Remember? Thomas, Brian, and Jessie. So who else are they going to go talk to? They went to find Jessie. So they actually arrived at her door at 3 a.m. because, they had to go from New York to West Virginia, and they got to her door at 3 a.m., knocked on her door, and was waiting for, I guess Jessie's mother to answer the door because she is 18, or she could have been renting the house with, I don't know, she could have been renting a house by herself, or she could have been renting a house with her roommates or whatever. Either way, they didn't know what they were going to find when they knocked on the door, but they needed answers. So when they knocked on the door, Mary Sheeler answered the door, 45 years old, and they're like, yes, ma'am, your daughter, Jessie Sheeler, is she home? They told her exactly what happened. They told her that Brian was shot. And they really, really needed to speak with Jessie to find out where Thomas was. They needed to find out if she had any contact with Thomas, if she knew this was going to happen. They just needed to speak with Jessie. And then out of the blue, for some reason, Mary just started crying hysterically. She was all wailing like, oh, just crying hysterically. And the cops are like, no, ma'am, your daughter is fine. We just need to talk to her. We didn't come to arrest her. We just need to talk to her to find out if she's heard from Thomas. Because if she's heard from Thomas, then we can go and find him and arrest him for what he did. She's not in trouble. We didn't come here for your child. And Mary just wouldn't stop crying. And, police are trying to explain this to her. And finally, she said, I'm Jessie. You heard me. 45-year-old Mary was pretending to be 18-year-old Jessie this whole time. So police were like, okay, and started questioning her immediately. Well, did you hear from Thomas? And who's this Jessie? And I saw pictures of a young woman, who is that? Anyway, she came out with the whole story. So she hadn't heard from Thomas. Jessie was actually a real person. Jessie, and all the pictures and everything like that, was actually her 18-year-old daughter. Guys, you guys. That was her 18-year-old daughter. So think about all the pictures that I said she was sending. Provocative pictures in her underwear, all of that stuff. That was Mary's 18-year-old daughter, Jessie. Oh my God. So during the investigation, it turned out that Jessie had no idea her mom was doing this. that Mary had flirted with multiple guys online, pretending to be her daughter, using her daughter's pictures and everything like that. And not only pictures. One time she pointed a video camera up her daughter's skirt without her daughter knowing, and then sent this video to several men with the question, quote, "Guys, do you like it? What in LF is going on?" Can y'all I can't even imagine. That's not even something that's in my wheelhouse of imagination of my mom doing. It's so not there that I can't even talk about what I would do if my mom did that, because I wouldn't even think that my mother would. I wouldn't even think a mother would do that. Who does this? What the God? How violated does Jesse actually feel? And then not betrayed. Man. Okay. So eventually police did find and arrest Thomas. And during their investigation, they found Thomas's DNA on a peach pit that was at the scene of the crime. So what, he just sat there waiting for Brian to come out and eating a peach and was just like, just threw it out the car? Like, what do we always say? If you're going to commit a crime, please have as much evidence as you possibly could at the crime scene and on your person. So they found a peach pit with his DNA like all over it. He might as well have just written a note saying, "Hey, Thomas Montgomery was here." They also found a photo of the family, like a family photo, with the gun that they suspected was used in the shooting. Now, my question is, and the case doesn't say this, were they both found at the scene of the crime? Because that's kind of like an orgy of evidence. That's like what they call it. It would be unbelievable if there was a peach pit with all his DNA on it and a picture, and literally, like, the only thing you're missing is a sign saying Thomas Montgomery, like a neon sign saying Thomas Montgomery, if that was found at the scene of the crime. So, of course, they arrested Thomas and charged him with murder. He did plead guilty to the murder of Brian, and he pled guilty in exchange for a 20-year sentence. You heard me right. Only 20 years. That's what he got as long as he pled guilty, which to me is asinine, primarily because of the orgy of evidence. What more did you need? You could have that was an open and shut case, Johnson. That was actually an open and shut case. Oh my God. I don't understand why they needed a plea deal. Really don't understand, but hey, I'm not a lawyer, so who am I? In the meantime, while this is going on, prosecutors are like going through their books from high school, going through their law books from college, like trying to find anything to charge Mary with. Just anything. They're just, look, I don't know, claims she was 18. Can we charge her with that? She opened the door on Tuesday at 12 a.m. Can we charge her with that? She ran a red light. Can we charge her with that? Like, they were trying to find anything to charge her with. And in her defense, sorry, I was trying to get through that sentence without laughing. In her defense, she claimed that what she was doing was a service to society because she was keeping Thomas online so he couldn't talk to any other teenagers. I was doing you a favor. If you would have just done your job, officer, he wouldn't have been online talking to other teenagers. So I had to do your job for you. That was her defense. So, these prosecutors are really digging. Case of 1889, trying to find anything that they could pin on her. Unfortunately, they couldn't find anything, and there was nothing that they could do. Her transgressions were of moral, ethics, and her stink ass character. But according to the legal system, she didn't break any laws. Now, I was thinking about it, and I guess technically she didn't, because that wouldn't be pedophilia or child trafficking or whatever it would be called, because her daughter was 18. But if they could have found and proven any pictures before she turned 18, they would have had a case. But unfortunately, nothing. Quote, shame on her. She not only didn't do anything about it, I think she provoked it. Unfortunately, in New York State, you have to do a little something more to be criminally liable. End quote. And that is the case of Thomas Montgomery, Jesse, aka Mary, and Brian. Thomas and Mary both lied their asses off. I was going to say I can't tell which one is worse, but Mary's definitely worse. Mary is definitely worse. And unfortunately, Brian was killed because of this. And Mary's husband divorced her. She has never apologized to her daughter, Jessie. So her daughter, Jessie, moved with her other relatives in Virginia. So moved out of the house and went to Virginia to live with her relatives. And then she started attending college there. And she's completely stopped talking to her mom. And Mary finds no reason to apologize. I don't understand that, but okay. She also, Mary, started pursuing an education at a community college in West Virginia. And she's only spoken about what happened once, and that was to the BBC. Quote, it was stupid. It should never have happened. I just never thought it would go anywhere. That it would end, fall off, and that would be the end of it. End quote. Brian's parents started a petition to try and get some laws passed to protect against people like Mary, but nobody knew what kind of laws could be passed. Nobody could figure out what kind of laws could be passed to do this. So that's still pending or trying to be in process, or basically nothing came of it, unfortunately. And then this whole crazy mess of a case was actually turned into a Lifetime movie that was directed by Courtney Cox called Tall, Hot Blonde. And it came out in 2012. Woo! I told y'all to listen all the way to the end. The only thing that kind of clued me in was what 18-year-old says make love to me. That's the only thing. Other than that, I would have never, ever seen that twist. What do y'all think? Definitely, I want to hear from y'all with this crazy episode at the end of season 2. Let me know what y'all thought about it in the comments below. Also, let me know if y'all have any episodes, any cases that you want to hear of for season 3. Let me know by emailing me at noconductradio@gmail.com. Put it in the comments below. Put it on social media. Let me know. What do y'all want to hear in season 3? If you like this episode, then head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and rate us 5 stars. You know where else you could find us? You could find us on Good Pods. Go there, look up Love and Murder, and rate us there too. You can say whatever you want in the description, but just go ahead, rate us, leave us 5 stars. Don't forget to visit us on Patreon to become an exclusive member of our Lamb community. You get commercial-free, full-length, early release episodes of Love and Murder, as well as some extras of whatever cases we're covering. So you'll get like the pictures, you'll get pictures of the crime scene, you'll get letters, whatever extras of the cases, you'll see it in our lamb community. Like today, I'm going to post a picture that Jesse and Brian posted on the forums of Thomas. And also, even though this is the last episode of Love and Murder, for our full-length episodes of season 2, even though this is the last episode of season 2, if you head on over to Patreon, you're still going to get bonus episodes over there. Plus, you have a plethora of back catalog bonus episodes that you can listen to while you're waiting for season 3 to start. You also get bonus content like cases about love obsessions, cases with the craziest crime, or serial killer corner. You get host stories so you can find out more about the hosts, and you get behind the scenes and so much more. And starting in season 3, you will also get bloopers. You'll get a blooper reel every quarter. So join us now, starting at only $1 a month, but the most popular tier is our $5 a month tier. So come on over, www.patreon.com/love and murder. Follow us on social media at facebook.com/relationship crime, Instagram at Love Murder Podcast. Join our Facebook fan group by searching for Love and Murder fan page in Google or Facebook, or by simply clicking in the link in the show notes below. Find our awesome merch by going to our website, www.murderandlove.com, and clicking on Shop in the menu above. And an easy and free way to help us out is by simply sharing this episode. Share with your mom, share with your dad, share with your online boyfriend. Share, 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 share. And as always, we end each episode by reminding you that it's all love and no murder, y'all. Stay safe online, and we'll see you in season 3 in January. Goodbye.